Hello and welcome to this Jane's Weather Update. It is Friday the 13th of June. Ominous for some, but interesting weather for others. We have got a bit of cloud that is stuck over the southeast thanks to high pressure in through there. We've got some wet weather that is coming, just brushing that eastern coast of New South Wales. We've got a big band of cloud that's coming in from the northwest, but that doesn't really have any rain in it. There's a system that's crossing the southwest corner, and we're starting to see a little bit of activity up here, but not like we'll see until next week, which begins on Monday. All right, let's have a look at where the warnings are at the moment. We've got some strong wind warnings for the coast here. We've got gale here across the southwest, thanks to that front coming through. It is cold in the southeast and right up into the southern parts of Queensland there. We're really feeling it. I've got a thick jumper on this morning, and we've got sheep graziers warnings. The frost warnings have eased. We also have road weather alerts in Tasmania. So that's the current situation there. The only flooding that is left over is these inland parts of South Australia. Okay, let's have a look at what to expect for the next little bit. You can just see what the timing is here. So we've got Friday the 13th, and this is the 24-hour period, 10 p.m. through to 10 p.m. tonight. So we'll watch this. We go day by day, and you can see what the date is down in that bottom corner there. So this is Friday. We've got a high-pressure system that is sitting just in over here. There is a low that is off the coast. Now, we did have a low that was here over South Australia. That has dissipated, and this one is the next one. It's just bringing, it is nothing inland. It is a very, very coastal fringe thing you can see there. All right, high pressure sitting in through here. Cold pool overhead. I'll just pop that one on. So here you can see these blue lines indicating just how cold the air is and how it is stretching right up to the southern parts of Queensland. So that is why it is so chilly. Minus 5.1 in Oakey this morning, which is exceptional. We do have a cold front that is crossing the west, and so that's just dipping into that southwestern corner. Now I'll turn that one off for now just to make it nice and simple. High pressure here, cold front in through here. That's by later on tonight. Heading into Saturday, this one comes up, crossing the bight. Good for the southeastern parts of South Australia, just starting to come into the western parts of Victoria, hitting that southwestern corner of New South Wales, nothing in Tasmania yet. We do have that high pressure that is sitting there, still a little bit of coastal activity in New South Wales, but watch this here, what it's going to do into Sunday. So cold front running up in through there now. Let's go into the next one. It just belly flops across the southeast, and so that means you get the falls north of the ranges. So yes, it is inland, but these ones aren't huge amounts. So there it's really, I can't see the thing there. Anyway, it's very low falls. This one here, the green colour, let me just move my head out of the way. The green colour there is 5 to 10 to 15. So that's off here. We don't have any of that in the mainland. Coming into the northern parts and western parts of Tasmania, but this one does not bring big falls. It is not a repeat of last weekend's system. However, in behind that, there is another one that is crossing the bight. This one didn't really originate over the southwest. This one is coming up, so it has a little more oomph with it. But again, it's not going to be a repeat of what we saw last weekend. Let's watch that as we go through Monday. Here it is. High pressure back in through here. Here's that cold outbreak coming into the southeast. High pressure ridge right in through here. And that ridge of high pressure means no connection up into tropical moisture. Not what we're starting to see coming to the northeastern parts of Queensland. I'll focus on that in a sec. Let's go back to the southeast. So here we are by the end of Monday night. We'll watch it go through into Tuesday. So it moves right across in through there. That'll be a bit of alpine snow, another cold outbreak for the southeast. Not the huge falls of last time, but just a nice little top up as it comes through, and it does dissipate as it heads inland or away from the ranges in through there. You can clearly see that in action. So heavier, lighter, nothing by the time it reaches in through here. Let's watch that in Tasmania, where the ranges go west through to east. So you've got heavier, and not much by the southeast once it has come across onto the dry side of the ranges. And again, you can see that here with our Great Dividing Range. It's all in through here, and it dries up as it heads into the east. Meanwhile, this is Monday to Tuesday, so let's go back to Monday. This one is in through here. I'll focus on the southwest in a second. But let's have a look at Queensland. So Monday starting to come in here, Tuesday down in through here, and this is heavier falls. This is 25 to 50 millimetres, 50 to 75. So that's the serious system that is coming in that is very out of season. So if you're up in the north next week, this is what you can expect. So that's Tuesday, which is the heaviest day. Heading into Wednesday, most of it is offshore now, but we are still seeing a coastal thing right down into the southeast. Then Thursday, and then Friday. So that's what we've got for Queensland next week. Meanwhile, let's go and have a look over in the southwestern parts of the country. We'll just pop back to Monday. So high pressure here, Monday, Tuesday. This is when the next one comes through, and that's pretty big. So we've got some 15 to 25s in through there. Heading into Wednesday, then Thursday, then Friday, and then Saturday. There's a bit more that comes in through there as well. So Friday, Saturday, and Tuesday, they are the bigger days. Meanwhile, this one crosses the southeast into Tuesday. By Wednesday, high pressure is now through here. That acts like a block, and it means all the systems in the west know you cannot come in, and so they're just going to slide across the southeast. So that means for the southeast, watch this Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it's just the western parts of Tasmania that see that and just brushing that coastal fringe. So that's the pattern over the next week. Bit of action in the southwest, bit of out-of-season action in Queensland. In the southeast, it is Saturday into Sunday, and then Monday into Tuesday. The Monday to Tuesday system is better, but the Saturday into Sunday is better for South Australia. Okay, let's look at that as totals. So here we go, different legend for this one. So anything yellow is 25, and so then heading up from there. Right, so we've got those falls that are coming in here, very coastal, just a little bit inland for Queensland. This is how it's adding up there. So over 25 millimetres over in the southwestern corner, and then it disintegrates as you head inland, but still nice falls in through here. In the southeast, you've got that one coming across South Australia and then belly flopping into the rest of that, and then the next one Monday to Tuesday. But this isn't huge falls. Definitely not a repeat of last weekend's system. No connection up to that tropical moisture, and no slow wandering low that can just really slowly soak in as it moves past. We don't have that. All right, let's have a look at the week as a whole. So we're going to have a look at the Euro model. We saw the southwest, we saw Queensland, we saw what's happening in the southeast, and that is pretty much what the Euro model is picking up here. So it's got the greens over here. It's got this one here. This is from Monday onwards, so this is week 1. And in the southeast, it's got it clipping that coast and coming to the northwestern half of Tasmania. So it's systems that are coming across and not having a big impact. Now, it does have yellow in through here, which indicates that little bit of a sliding across the ranges. So that checks out with what all of that patterning was suggesting and how it dries up in the southeast for the end of the week. That'll also mean that there are slightly warmer days coming in too. So at least that's something to look forward to. All right, let's have a look at what the Bureau's take on that is for next week. Here is the Queensland part. It has it moving further inland though. Not highly likely to experience that. It's got it in the southwest corner, but not really inland. I think they're going to see a bit more than what that is showing. And in the southeast, it really doesn't show any of those falls coming in. Let's now go back to week 2, and here we have nothing in the southwest. So this looks like being a below average week for the southwestern parts of the country. Seeing it next week, but not the week after. Still a bit of activity in Queensland. So is there something else to come down in through here? We'll look at the MJO in a second. It doesn't look overly likely. So not quite sure what that signal is that they're picking up there. But in the southeast, that looks a little bit more promising. So in week 1, there's the sliding system, and then there's that little system that comes through but doesn't deliver big falls. In week 2, there might be something that is a little bit better. So that's a nice signal that we're seeing in through the southeast there. Does the Bureau have it? No, they don't. So here we have a hint of it here, but nothing special, and it's got drier than average through those parts. Doesn't like any of that Queensland and doesn't like any of the southwest. So it's on track for that one, but differing for there and also differing for there. That is for week 2. All right, what is causing all of this? Let's start with the Madden-Julian oscillation. That is our pulse of energy that travels around the tropics. Why do we care? Because when it comes near Australia, it helps connect tropical moisture and that low pressure to turn it into rain. So whenever it is in this part of the world or in the neutral circle in the middle. So over here, it encourages it. In the neutral circle, it's got no influence. And when it's over here, it means it suppresses that connection. It says, no, I don't want you to connect. Here we are here now, and we're about to head into that. So that second week, I'll just go back to that one. This one is interesting. It is at odds with that. However, there may be some sort of weakening that is in there. So maybe that is what is accounting for that there. So likely to see this moving away from us, but from time to time dipping down into neutral, which means that something could come back and make some sort of a connection. All right. Let's have a look at SAM. Now, we know with this one here, Southern Annular Mode, it's all about, are we seeing troughs and cut-off lows, or are we seeing strong cold fronts? when we have, I'll go into it in a second, a positive Indian Ocean dipole, that encourages a positive southern annular mode. So positive Indian Ocean, i.e. no rain from there, encourages positive SAM here. Positive SAM means it's really hard to get our strong cold fronts come through. With this diagram, focus on this part of it here. Let me just move my head back out of the way. Focus on this part here. That's the observations. That is what has actually occurred. The forecast for this is not a great source. This one is only from the Weather Bureau, and it is always neutral or positive. It very, very rarely goes into the negatives. However, that is the state of play of what we've had for a very long time. However, last weekend's, twice, apologies for that, last weekend's big system dipped down into the negative, and that is what we had. The big cold outbreak, it came with a strong cold front, and it had a cut-off load associated with it too, and a connection to moisture. So it ticked all of the boxes to deliver that rain. It was lucky that it moved across the southeast of the country. The southwest has seen a couple of those. This time it was the southeast turn. This one here has bobbed back up again. There has been a little bit of a decrease, but we're not sure where it's going to head from here. But what we do know is when you go back and look in time, last year there are about 4 of these during the autumn, winter, spring sort of season, and they were associated with the big falls that came through. So we like this to go negative, particularly if you're an alpine skier or snowboarder as well. Okay, so this is where that is sitting for now. Let's have a look at the sea surface temperature anomaly, and I'll get back to what that means for SAM in a sec. We'll have a look at the box that is over the Pacific Ocean. So this is ENSO, La Nina or El Nino, and at the moment it is a very big mix of yellow and blue in through there. So it is a very neutral ocean. It's not pushing it one way, it is not pushing it the other, very, very neutral. Let's have a look at the forecast for that. Once we have taken note, once again, of all of the warm water that is off Queensland here, so our own local source of moisture. This indicates neutral, not pushing it anywhere. This one here means we have our own source. So let's have a look at the forecast for that. Very, very neutral, and likely to remain very, very neutral. Now, it is on the positive side, so the El Nino side of that, but definitely not crossing the threshold. So neutral from the Pacific Ocean, not sending it anywhere, but we know that we have this source of moisture, this pool of gold that is just off the coast there from Queensland. So that means whenever you've got moisture that's coming in from the northeast, meaning with low pressure, that should deliver good rainfalls. But you've got to have those two meeting to make that happen. Let's have a look over at the western side. So in the Indian Ocean, we've got all of this blue, even a little bit of purple that is coming through there. That is a growing situation, but there's still a fair bit of yellow left. We've got all of our warmer water that is in through here to offset that. So we've got a dipole, an offset, an imbalance, in the Indian Ocean, and that means radio. With our imbalance, we want to correct this imbalance, and so what it does is get the atmosphere involved, and it sends moisture in a particular direction. When we have blue out here and orange out here, it sends it towards us, and that is known as a negative Indian Ocean dipole, the La Nina of the Indian Ocean. This is where we are now, steadily going down as we've been going in through the beginning of winter here. We're likely to continue going down, crossing that threshold as we go through winter and into spring there before coming out naturally as it does at the end of the year. So this here is a good sign, but it's just one part of that rain equation. It's the moisture part. It means that from the northwest, we're likely to see more of these cloud bands that are coming in. Question is, can it meet up with low pressure and actually get that connection happening? And then if you're in the path of that, then you will see good rainfall. The problem is we're having a lot of high pressure sitting over the southeast. That's what the problem has been for the last year and a half, and it's hard to get those highs to move. However, it's another however. Let's go back to here. When we move into a negative Indian Ocean dipole, it encourages, so there's a little bit of it in there that's working in the back really, really hard. It encourages those highs to split across the southern parts of Australia, which means you could get more low pressure coming through, and that could be the key to turning that moisture into rain. Not guaranteed, but a silver lining of what happens when you get this to come down through here. So at the moment, we're struggling to get those lows through. We had a great one last weekend, but it was a once-off. If we can get those highs to move out of the way, then yes, we can get more low pressure coming through. If we go into a negative Indian Ocean dipole, it can encourage less of positive up here and more of negative, which is better for the south. All right. Let's have a look at the forecast. We'll do a bit of a whip around the country, and I'll just pop, maybe about there. Here we are in Queensland. So Brisbane, first of all, we have our chilly temperatures overnight. We've got fairly light winds, and it's a westerly as well, which is why it's so cold. The dew point down on 2, very non-Queensland-like. So we have our chilly nights, and then we have our fairly sunny days. Now, on Saturday, yes, there is a bit of cloud that's coming into the southeast there. It disappears for Sunday and it comes back on Monday. As we know, that rain system starts to kick off in the north. Now, what is coming for Brisbane? 0.3 is the average across the models on Wednesday, so just a little bit in through there. Break on Thursday, coming back on Friday, and we've got just a little bit for that southeastern corner as we go through Friday and Saturday. So not huge there. The bigger falls are likely to be up north. But what it will do is stop these frosty nights. So from Tuesday morning, that's the first one where we're not likely to see frost thanks to all of that cloud cover. All right, so that's for Queensland. Let's head into Sydney. Certainly not seeing the frost, particularly anywhere near the coast, because we've got this little drive-by from that weather system brushing the coast and not heading inland. So lots of showers coming through. They're likely to dry up later on Saturday. Let's just expand that out so we can see it. Yeah, it comes to an abrupt end in the late afternoon, and it's all dry by Saturday night and chilling down, as you would expect there. This one here is the Australian model, and it is not very good at forecasting for Sydney. You'd think it would be, considering it comes from Australia. But that's fine. As we go into Sunday, here we go back to our sunny stretch. We've got cold nights, and that goes through pretty much for the entirety of the week next week. So that's what we're looking at in Sydney. All right, here in Melbourne, we've had our chilly start. It was 3.5 this morning. This 3 here, I think I'm going to be going with 4 as we're going to tomorrow morning. That is what you can see, the green one in through here. That's the Euro model. That has been pretty spot on with what the minimum in the Melbourne city, in the Melbourne CBD has been. And so that is still about 4. So I'm likely to forecast 4 for tomorrow. If you want to get a bit of a sneak peek on what, where do I have it? I've got it bookmarked. Let's go through to on my notifications, which is here. Sorry, not knowing my own website very well. Here we have under the weather summary when it actually calculates all of those, adapts to local conditions. There we go. Kansas forecast. So here we have for Melbourne, they have got a 3.7. So that's what the Bureau will be going with when they issue their forecast this afternoon at 4:20 p.m. They've also got a 12 as the maximum for tomorrow. So let's go in and have a look at that there. Oh, I moved, didn't I? All right, we'll head back to Melbourne. Here we go. Again, we'll just recalculate. Into tomorrow, we're chilly. And the reason for that is about 4 to start and then about 12 in the afternoon. It's because this cloud is going to build coming in from the west from that system that is going to pop through. There's not a lot of wet weather with this one for us because it's coming down from the northwest, but we will see the clouds. So that means it's a chillier day. Right, heading into Sunday, that cloud lingers for much of it, not much wet weather. In fact, that is just one model that has anything left. The other ones, it's just very, very light. So there's some drizzle pretty much overnight. Heading into Monday, that's when things change. We're going to see that system come through later Monday into Tuesday. More of it to come through, break, and then more comes in through here. That's when it turns a little bit chilly. Nice snow up in the Alps. And then for the rest of the week, there is not much happening. Let's have a look at this here. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Not the very chilly nights that we've been seeing, but look at these days, 17 and 18 as we go through next Friday and Saturday. Yes, no more 14, 15s, 17 and 18. Let's have a look at Adelaide. Likely to do quite well from this system here. So here on Friday, we've got the sunshine. Heading to Saturday, this is that first one coming through that does well for southeastern parts of South Australia. So 9 is the average on the models. Oh, and we love this. A range of 7 to 11, that is a tight spread, so there's high confidence. All 4 models like that moving through, so that ticks the box in terms of, yes, this is really likely to happen. So a lovely fall there coming through for southeastern parts of South Australia. Into Sunday, that's when that one dries up. Let's look at the next one. Monday, 6 millimetres and then 3, so that comes through on Monday into Tuesday as well. And the range, we've got 0.9 is the lowest there and 0.2 is the lowest on Tuesday. We'll just expand that and have a look. Off the top of my head, yes, it is a Euro model that likes that one the best. And it is the Access Australian model, the yellow one there, that likes it the least. And maybe into Canada. But that is how we kind of move through on Monday into Tuesday. Then for the rest of the week, not much happening, and yes, that is a top of 20 next Friday in Adelaide. Let's have a look at Perth. So at the moment, we've got this one coming through today into tomorrow. We've got that coming through later and into Sunday. So there's a bit of activity there, showers and potentially the risk of storms, particularly near the coast and in the south. Bit of a break on Monday, but have a look at this one. Here's Tuesday, 14 as the average, 721 across the models. Break on Wednesday, and then later in the week, there's a 16 and a 16. Now, 0.6 to 46, that's a very big, broad range across the models. One model doesn't like it, one model freaking loves it. So that is low confidence at this stage, but there is the potential for something to happen. And into this one, 8 to 31, again, equally out at 16. So all of the models at least have something coming in through there. And we saw in that pattern, southeast goes dry, southeast goes warm, and it's the southwest that gets all of that action as we head through the later part of next week. All right, that's it for me for now. I'll see you next Friday. As always, head to janesweather.com for the latest details.